I went on a gorgeous hike the other day by a lovely waterfall, and it's a very spiritual, very nice, very cutesy, whimsical fairyland place. And they had, I can't remember if it was on a chalkboard or like written on a window or something. There was a nice little quote, a nice little message, and the message was, we do not invite opportunities for change by avoiding change because it feels uncomfortable. Our opportunity for change and changing our circumstances comes from feeling the uncomfortability and doing things differently anyway. Obviously, that's not word for word what it fucking said. It was something along those lines, okay? That was not what it said at all, but along those lines, and this is the message I got from it, okay? And this is something I've been very, very conscious of recently. Just the fact that I think sometimes we want change and we want things to change, we want things to be different, but we're not always willing to actually do the things that will create change, or B, not conscious that we're avoiding things that need to change. It's almost like I've been noticing a lot in myself that I've lived in such one state of mind and in one way of being conditioned that I wasn't even conscious of it. I wasn't even aware of it. So obviously all the decisions I was making in my life were based around that one way of being, and it's that was my autopilot. Like, I was making decisions out of autopilot, not even consciously because they felt comfortable, but because I just didn't think to do anything differently. Like, I didn't think, it was just natural for me to make decisions from that place, and just natural for me to decide based on that place, and natural for me to listen to the thoughts that were coming from that place. And now that I've become conscious that I'm doing that, it just makes like so much sense to me. Like, obviously my life is different to how I want it to look right now. Obviously my life looks different to the way in my head and in my heart I want it to look, because I'm not choosing to live, or I'm not making choices that will produce a different outcome. I'm sticking to my same mentality, I'm sticking to my same beliefs, I'm sticking to my same perspectives, and I'm not actively choosing something different in order to produce a different outcome. The most classic quote of them all, Albert Einstein, listen up. Insanity is the act of repeating the same action over and over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Again, I don't even know if that's the right quote, but it's something along those lines. And that is so true. Like, we cannot expect anything in our lives to change if we keep choosing to live by the same rule book, to live by the same perspectives, to live by the same beliefs, to make the same decisions, to take the same actions. Nothing's going to change. And it's almost become like trippy for me, because I've just like suddenly become aware of the fact that old me would listen to everybody else's opinions before my own, and like take everybody else's opinions on board before my own, and take everybody else's opinions and perspectives on as truth. And I would let people scare me out of doing things. I would let people essentially just decide for me, and I would just listen to the things that they tell me to do or not to do out of fear of like me being wrong. Like, I would just assume that that person is right beyond what I felt for myself and beyond what I was thinking was right for myself. And I feel like I've become really conscious that I've made all of my choices and decisions based on conditioning from other people, and based on the way I was brought up, and the way like people taught me to see and think about and perceive the world. And now I'm in a position where I want to make different decisions to that. And I don't think one is right and one is wrong. I don't think one is good, one is bad. I think everybody has their own way of being, and I think there's like a path that I want to choose that perhaps other people are perceiving as a more risky path, I guess, as a more like unserious path. And I think I've been in two minds where I've kind of realized that on one hand, I can listen to what these people are saying and I can listen to other people's perspectives and opinions and let that make decisions for me. But then logically, if I let that story make a decision for me, I can see where I'm going to end up, because I'm going to end up in the same position as those people and I'm going to end up living the same life as those people. And because that's all I've known, because I've only ever been in an environment where that's how everybody chooses to live their life, it almost seems like obviously that's the right thing to do. Obviously that's the logical thing to do. Obviously anything that I choose that is other than that is different to that, is probably unsafe, probably risky, and probably not a good idea, because I've never seen it play out successfully for anybody else. I only have what I'm surrounded by in my immediate environment to prove to me what works. And it's more logical and safer and whatever else, more comfortable to choose what I'm doing based on their perspectives, because I can already see the outcome of that. I can already see, okay, if I do what they're telling me to do, I'm going to be in their position, and that's fine. However, I don't think that is the position that I want to be in, and therefore I cannot make my decisions based on what they're telling me to do. But that feels significantly more uncomfortable because I don't have evidence of that working out for anybody else in my immediate reality. I don't have evidence, like nobody else in my life has chosen this type of path, therefore it feels significantly more risky to me. However, this would also be the same case. I'll take Blake Lively as an example, actually, which maybe that's a bit controversial, but but this is only because I used to be a Blake Lively stan when I was younger. When I was like 15, 16, I was like a Blake Lively stan, okay? And I knew about her whole life. So from my recollection, Blake Lively grew up in a family of actors and actresses. And imagine growing up in a family of actors and actresses and just like, you're just immediately perceiving that that's possible, immediately perceiving that that's a normal way to live, immediately perceiving that I can do that. Like, I'm just going to grow up as normal, be normal, do my own thing. It's not risky. Like, I am just going to end up in this business because everybody around me is in this business and it's just normal to me. And like, I think that's where we all sit, is we all sit in this space of familiarity and what we perceive what is possible based on what we are immediately surrounded by. So like on one, like for me, perceiving being an actor or an actress, that to me, it's giving like, how the fuck do you even do that? What the fuck do you even do? Like, literally, what the fuck do you even do? Where do you even start? Okay, where do you even start? To me, like, that's not a normal, natural career path. That's something where you have to fucking try a bit harder and put a little bit more effort in, and like, it's risky and it's not the norm. But that's just a belief system I've developed because it's not my norm. Whereas Blake Lively, who grew up in that environment, that is her norm. Like, she grew up in an environment where that was just the norm, and like, obviously, like, it was just easy for her to perceive that that was possible. And this is where our belief systems and our brains and our subconscious minds and our psychological development, if you will, literally determines everything that we want to do. And I feel like I've been fighting against my psychological development so hard, knowing that I want to experience a different life than the people around me, and I therefore have to fight really hard to act differently and act outside of what I perceive as the norm and what everybody around me perceives as the norm. And I'm not even saying this in a way that's like, it's a crazy decision, it's a crazy risk. I'm like following the craziest path possible. Like, for so many people, the path that I want to follow is a normal path. But just because in my immediate reality, it's not what people are doing, like, everyone around me is freaking out about it, and therefore that's making me freak out about it. And it's become so easy to naturally listen to the noise around me because the people around me are in good positions in their life, and like I wouldn't be unhappy if I was in their positions. Like they're in good, solid, like what society would perceive as like a stable, safe position. It just so happens that I feel called to something different, and therefore that feels more unsafe. That feels more risky because it's not what I'm immediately perceiving, and it's not what I've been taught to immediately perceive as safe and normal. And I've been really fighting to consciously make decisions outside of my way of thinking, outside of my normal instincts and reactions. And it's so interesting how much anxiety I have been feeling. Like, I cannot tell you how anxious I have been for the past, 2 weeks, let's be honest. But particularly in the last couple of days, like, the more I've started to talk about this with people around me, and they've, expressed their concerns, and it's made me question everything and sent me into a whole spiral, and I feel so anxious. Hello, Mercury retrograde. Hello, eclipse season. By the way, yeah, we're in deep Mercury retrograde, which I think is probably why this is coming up. I'm a Gemini, so Mercury always hits me so intensely. The retrogrades get me down, let me tell you. And I think this is why this is all coming up, because obviously retrogrades are about revising things, revisiting things, rethinking things. It's going back and figuring things out. And I think this is what's coming up for me, is I'm realizing that I've consistently made decisions and consistently held perspectives that are based on what other people perceive as normal and safe. And I unconsciously was making decisions based on that perspective because it's all I've known, and therefore subconsciously it feels the safest to me. But what I've really had to try and do is make different decisions. And even when I feel, this kind of links back to my last episode, but more so about making conscious choices, and more so about, I feel so anxious and I have been spiraling, my brain has been spiraling, I've been trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, etc, etc. I've been trying to cling on to this situation and cling on to this control, this illusion of control, and trying to figure out what the best thing to do is, when realistically the only reason I'm freaking out is because I'm choosing something different. The only reason I'm freaking out and people around me are freaking out is because they've never had this experience either. They therefore do not actually know how this experience could play out because they've never experienced it either. They have fears that they're passing on to me, that they're projecting onto me, that they're speaking, addressing with me. And I'm taking on those fears as truth and letting them affect me. But it's just because consciously none of us have ever decided to make a change, and none of us have ever decided to live differently. We've kind of just accepted our experience as truth and therefore never lived outside of that. Whereas if I want to choose a different path, I have to make those different choices, and I have to make those choices even though perhaps they, right now, from my perspective right now and the perspective that I've always lived in, they might feel wrong, they might seem ridiculous, they might seem silly, it might seem uncertain, it might seem risky, whatever. It's just different. It's just such a different choice to make to what I would normally make. But if I don't make those different choices, I will not experience a different outcome. And if I want to see a different life for myself, if I want to experience a different life for myself, I have to make these choices that feel uncomfortable and that other people don't understand, and maybe I don't fully understand, but they're the only thing that's going to get me a different outcome to what I'm experiencing now, because I've only made choices and decisions from the same place my entire life. If I want to see a difference, if I want to see change in my life, I have to make different decisions, even though they are freaking me out, and even though my brain is thinking that it's the wrong thing to do. My gorgeous, beautiful angel beings, I would like to briefly interrupt this episode to just remind you that you can like this podcast, you can rate this podcast, you can review this podcast, you can follow, you can subscribe, you can do all the lovely, beautiful things to help us to grow this wonderful space, this wonderful platform, this wonderful community, and connect with so many beautiful, like-minded people. I love you so much. I appreciate you so much. And back to the episode. It's just the uncomfortability of it, I guess. Like, I feel like my brain is trying to convince me this is wrong. Like, what you're doing is wrong because nobody else is doing it. You've never done it. Like, this must be wrong and you must be wrong for thinking in this way. And this is a mistake and you should listen to everybody else. And I think that's just a protection mechanism. I think it's just my brain creating this anxiety and creating this story of you cannot trust yourself. You cannot trust your own instincts. You have to trust everybody else because they're all safe, and like this is what you've been conditioned into, this is what you're used to, this is safe for us. It's like my brain creating this narrative of I cannot trust making different decisions because my subconscious mind is afraid of being in an unknown experience. But what I'm really learning is that I have to move past that and make those choices anyway and make those decisions anyway. I am freaking out because I'm on the path of making a different decision and I've never experienced that outcome before. That's why I'm freaking out. I'm not freaking out because what I want to do is wrong. I'm like, millions of people have done what I want to do. Fucking millions of people are doing now and have done what I want to do. It's just the fact that nobody in my immediate environment has done it. Therefore, it feels like such a huge change and such a huge decision and such a huge risk. And therefore I'm freaking out, but I literally just have to accept the fact that I'm freaking out and just continue to make that decision. Because if I do not continue to make that decision, there is only one way my life will go, and it's the same way that everybody else's life has gone. And I can see that outcome, and that's fine. It's a good outcome. It's not a terrible outcome. I just know that I'm called to something different. I feel called to something different, and the only reason I would not make the decision that I want to make deep down is out of fear, and because I'm afraid, and because it doesn't look the same to everybody else. It looks like a complete risk and like almost a silly idea to everybody else. But I've just fully come to this realization that if I do not make this decision that feels hard, if I do not make this decision that feels confusing, if I do not make this choice, if I do not choose in this way, my life will not change. I will stay in the position I'm in, and I will stay on the path that I'm on, and my life will look the same way as everybody else's because I will be choosing based on their conditioning and how they've conditioned me. And maybe that's not where I'm meant to go. Maybe that's not where I feel called to go. Maybe that's not what I feel is for me. Therefore, why would I choose based on that? Again, it's like when everybody says like, you cannot make decisions and you cannot choose things and you cannot listen to the opinions of people who are not in a position that you want to be in. But that's where it's so conflicting because, again, these people are not in poor positions. These people are not in bad positions. These people are not in positions that are not good. It's just that maybe that's just not how I want my life to look. And automatically my brain goes, but that's right, because that's all any of us have ever known in my immediate environment. To me, like, that, therefore they're right. And I'm so afraid of being wrong because I'm choosing differently. I'm so afraid of being wrong because I'm choosing differently. However, if I don't choose differently, I will not experience a different outcome. It very much, situations like this, I feel like I felt so out of control and I felt so anxious and I felt so like helpless, I guess. Helpless, hopeless, not knowing what the hell to do. But in every situation like this, all we have to do is choose and make a decision. We make a decision, we commit to it, and let it unfold from there. Like, we have so much power in the things we choose to do, and it is just choice. Like, there's some things we can't choose, there's some things we can't control. Like, obviously, that's not how the world works. Like, we are not in control and we cannot choose all the time. But in the moments where we do have a choice, in the moments where we can choose one path or the other, one outcome or another, if we can stick to choosing what feels genuinely right to us, I don't really understand how we can go so horribly wrong. And like that again, that's not to say that we choose and then things are perfect. Maybe we choose something that is a huge risk, and maybe immediately the risk doesn't pay off. Maybe we do end up in a difficult position. Maybe we do make a mistake. Maybe we were wrong. But were we ever actually wrong? Because are we not just going to learn from that? Are we not just going to learn and grow and develop from that? And I think this is also another aspect to it of like everything I do is based on, again, like what I've been taught. And I think because of that, because I've made so many decisions based on other people's opinions and perceptions, perhaps I'm not as well rounded as a person as I could be. Perhaps I've been too sheltered. Perhaps I've not experienced the world in a way I want to experience the world, because I've tried to stay safe and tried to stay in a comfort zone that was almost projected onto me and created for me, and like I've grown up in and been conditioned into. Perhaps I'm not even seeing my full potential because I'm afraid of moving outside of this comfort zone, of this area that everybody already perceives as being safe. And maybe when I move out of this comfort zone and I make these decisions that are different, and I make these decisions that are not standard, I guess, in my immediate environment, maybe that will shape me more as a person. Maybe I will grow more as a person. Maybe I will experience more as a person. Maybe they won't all be good experiences. Maybe they won't all be bad experiences. Maybe it will just be an experience. I think I also heard someone talk about this the other day, and I cannot remember where I heard this. But understanding that everything is an experience, and whether or not like you've made the right, in quotation marks, decisions, or the wrong, in quotation mark, decisions, it's an experience. Like, you're just here to experience. All we are here to do is experience. And like, seriously, unless we're in physical danger, what is the worst that's going to happen? Like, what we choose to do something different, and what's the worst that happens? And when we think about what we think our worst case scenario is it actually that bad? Is it actually so bad that we can't deal with it in the moment and move on from it afterwards, learn from it? Even if what I want to do is a huge fucking mistake, maybe I just learn from it. Maybe I just take that risk. Maybe I make the mistake. Maybe it makes me a better, stronger, more independent person. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe I don't learn anything and I just have to start from the beginning. But I still will have experienced something. Even if it's the hardest situation I've ever put myself in, maybe I learn my own strength in that. If the outcome is not what I think it will be or what I hope it will be, maybe I just learn that I can choose differently, and maybe that helps me to make different choices in the future. Maybe I just learn that I'm stronger than I thought I was, or I can handle different things than I thought I could, or I have different sides to myself that I didn't know I had. I don't have different aspects to myself that I didn't know I had, because I let myself go and explore outside of what I already have now and what I already know about now, what I already know about myself now. Because I just went and experienced something different. I made a choice that made a difference, and I went and experienced something different. And it doesn't even have to be this huge choice either. It doesn't have to be like what I'm referring to, where it's like a whole path to choose. It's just daily, basic, small decisions. Like choosing to get up a bit earlier, choosing to go to bed earlier, choosing to read instead of watch TV, choosing to do something creative instead of, again, watching TV, I don't know. Choosing to go on a walk instead of just staying in bed. Like, just small choices every day that produce different outcomes. And like being okay with choosing things that don't feel natural for you to choose, that feel uncomfortable for you to choose. And you're like training yourself to make these decisions little by little every day, in order to produce a different outcome and to choose to create a change in your life. If your life is not where you want it to be, we have so much power in what we choose to do with that. We have so much power in our daily choices and in our choices of our next move. Like, that is where our power is. Our power is in our ability to choose what we do, to choose how we respond to things, to choose how we react to things, to choose how we spend our time, to choose where we put our energy. That is where our power is. Our power is in choice, in our choice and our ability to choose. And when we choose something different than what we're used to, or we choose something different than our autopilot, and we consciously, like, we can say to ourselves, this feels horrible, this feels uncomfortable, this feels wrong, this doesn't feel natural for me, but choosing to do it anyway, that's where we break through that wall. That's where we break through this wall of autopilot and living in the same state that we've always lived in, and we start to level up, we start to explore more, we start to experience more, we start to change who we are on an internal level, as well as changing our experience on an external level. Like, everything that we choose to do influences our internal state. And our internal state is the most important thing in the world. Like, our internal state is what creates our entire perception and experience of reality. So if we can make choices that positively impact our internal state of being and make us feel good and make us feel in alignment, how can it be that bad? How can it be that wrong and that bad? Because again, even if externally it doesn't happen the way we think it's going to, even if externally it doesn't turn out the way we expected, internally we've made a shift, we've made a change, we know something new, we've experienced something new, and that will create a change in itself. Even if it's not the change we thought, even if our life is not different in the way we thought, we still, by choosing something different, have made some kind of a change, and therefore we are not stuck where we were. We are not stagnant where we were. As soon as we choose something differently, we've made some kind of change, and we've changed the energy, and we can continue to work with that momentum of up-leveling our energy, of being somebody different, of choosing something different. That's how we make change in our lives. By choosing it, by choosing different things, choosing to do what is different. But I hope the message was clear. I'm really gonna try and choose differently, and I hope you do too. And I hope you know how gorgeous and beautiful and perfect and divine you are, and that you have all the power that you need. I love you so much. You have all the magic that you need. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Again, if you're here, let me know you're here. Slide into my DMs, leave a little comment, leave a review, whatever you're feeling. Let me know that you're here. I love you, I appreciate you, and I will see you next week.